Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Across Africa, our weekly look at stories from across the continent. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and this week, atrocities in Darfur have been met with indifference. The UN's humanitarian chief visits the devastated region and expresses his shock over the global inaction over the profound suffering and brutality of Sudan's war, the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Also, Madagascar's emerald in the rough, a 300-kilo gemstone unveiled, reportedly found hidden away in the halls of the palace of the recently toppled president. And using a mobile phone is the most popular way to make payments in Senegal. As the government looks for ways to boost its coffers, it's considering bringing in taxes for these kinds of transactions, a prospect that has some of the country's emerging online sectors worried. But first, Sudan's war has caused the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Since fighting began between the army and the RSF paramilitary in 2023, tens of thousands have died and around 12 million forced from their homes. The fallout in Darfur since the city of El Fasher was taken by the RSF in October has been particularly brutal. So much so that the UN's humanitarian chief's recent visit moved him to call out the global indifference to the scale of the abuses in the region. Laurent Berstecker has more.
In the desertic landscape of Al-Daba in North Sudan, hundreds of refugees patiently wait in line for their daily humanitarian rations. According to Red Crescent staff, more than 80% of those who've arrived from Al-Fasher in recent weeks are women and children. Nazik Abdelrahman's husband was killed by RSF fighters. She must now bear the weight of displacement on her own.
They didn't leave any men alive, only women, children and the elderly. But for a young man, it was impossible to leave.
Around a third of women were pregnant when they arrived in Al-Daba, and doctors say they currently lack the resources to provide them with the specialized care they need. The situation is symptomatic of wider challenges across Sudan, where the ongoing conflict has left over 30 million people, over half of the country's population, in need of humanitarian assistance. UN Aid Chief Tom Fletcher, who visited refugee camps in Tawila and Korma over the weekend, described a critical and desperate situation and called on international actors to boost their presence on the ground.
We do need this more visible presence for UN humanitarians inside Darfur, because it's a form of protection. Civilians and survivors tell us that when they see us there, they feel safer. They feel less at risk from retaliation and from this conflict spreading towards Tawila, for example, which would be catastrophic.
Fletcher also said he spoke with RSF representatives and asked them to guarantee the protection of civilians amid growing reports of mass executions, torture and sexual violence in war-torn Sudan.
Well, communities in eastern DR Congo are calling for more protection from another armed group that seems to be ramping up raids. Ugandan and Congolese forces have been running operations against the ADF since 2021, and yet attacks continue. At least 23 people were recently killed at a health centre in Lubero. Emmett tells us more.
There are growing concerns about the threat of the Allied Democratic Forces Group, or ADF, in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Increased attacks suggest that the ADF, which has pledged allegiance to the Islamic State, is becoming more deadly. The latest attack was over the weekend. At least 20 people were killed after ADF fighters attacked a hospital run by nuns in the province of North Kivu. That attack follows several massacres committed this summer. In July, the ADF killed over 100 civilians in two separate attacks in the province of Ituri. Another 52 were killed in North Kivu over the space of just 1 week in August. The reasons for the increasing attacks are complicated, according to researchers and security officials. Uganda and Congo launched a joint military operation against the ADF in 2021, which has driven the militants further into the Congolese interior. But this also means that the ADF is now operating across a larger and more remote area. On top of that, Congolese security forces are stretched to breaking point because of the conflict with Rwanda-backed M23 rebels. Security sources also say that many of the recent ADF attacks appear to be revenge operations, and it's ordinary citizens who are bearing the cost. This week, a prominent Catholic bishop in eastern Congo urged the government to take action, telling his congregation that enough is enough.
Emmett Livingston there for us. Now, Madagascar's transitional leaders unveiled a 300-kilo emerald gemstone that he says was stashed in the presidential palace by his predecessor. Colonel Michael Ranjaniran has said that the stone is a national asset that could be sold to boost state coffers. Laura Bernstecker has more.
An astonishing discovery that could help solve some of Madagascar's financial issues. The country's military leadership says it found a 300-kilogram emerald rock hidden inside the presidential palace, which was vacated by ousted President André Zoel last month.
We've just discovered this incredible national treasure. We don't know why it was brought here. We're ready to work with complete transparency and show that the public service is our priority.
Colonel Michael Ranjaniran was one of the leaders of the military coup that led to Radzoel's ousting, following widespread popular protests over corruption, poverty, and lack of basic services. He's since been sworn in as president of the transition and has vowed to hand back power to civilian authorities within the next 2 years. On Tuesday, Ranjaniran said the massive gemstone would be analyzed by experts to determine its value and could potentially be sold to help replenish state coffers. A symbolic statement in a country where government officials have long been accused of enriching themselves with public resources.
We want to redistribute the wealth to as many people as possible in order to avoid accusations of corruption. This discovery will be managed with complete transparency and visibility.
Despite its vast natural wealth, including precious stones and minerals such as quartz and graphite, Madagascar remains one of the world's most impoverished countries, with more than 75% of the island's population living below the poverty line.
Well, Morocco's Achraf Hakimi was named the Confederation of African Football's Men's Player of the Year this week. The PSG defender and captain of the Atlas Lions came out on top at Wednesday night's event in Rabat. James Vazina told me more about what sets Hakimi apart.
It's not often that you get a defender who's going to win a player's title like this. Very often you're looking at the goal scorers, and it's very much going to be a forward winning it. That's not the case this time. As a defender, it's been over 50 years that defenders won the trophy in these awards before. So he's definitely setting something there. But Hakimi isn't just any defender. He does indeed score goals. That would have helped him as well. And he's known, as a fullback, he rushes up the pitch, just as you mentioned I rushed into the studio. Well, he's very good at that. Maybe I'm taking some inspiration from that. But I'm telling you, he's so fast and he scores goals, and crucial goals as well. You'll remember, of course, one of his big successes from this year was the Champions League win with Paris Saint-Germain. He scored in the final, he scored in the semis, he scored in the quarterfinal. He's a huge, huge asset. It's not just about his work at the back, of course, crucial as a defender from blocking those attacks, and with his speed, it's everything that works for him in that way, and he's just so strong. But that has also been a huge way for him. Because look at the other nominees. They had Mohamed Salah up there and Victor Osimhen as nominees as well, and those two forwards as well. Looking at strikers, so Hakimi standing out definitely in that way.
James there sharing his insight and knowledge as always. But we now move to Zanzibar, where women are learning how to light up the lives of their communities. They're being trained to become solar power technicians, and the hope is that the sector will energize the archipelago's prospects on all fronts. Take a look.
Out of the darkness and into the light. In Zanzibar, one NGO is helping rural villages install solar power systems, training women as their engineers.
The tools seemed difficult to use at first, but after a short time, I managed to handle them.
The semi-autonomous archipelago off the coast of Tanzania counts some 2 million inhabitants, half of whom are not connected to the electric grid. For most, their only sources of illumination after sunset are oil lamps, whose limited light comes with acrid smoke and increased fire risk.
Kerosene has many dangers. Houses can burn down, children might drink it. We have seen many such cases. Some kids come in with burns from kerosene fires. It's a big hazard.
The East African coastal climate, though, has abundant sunshine, and rural Zanzibar has many women with deep connections to their local communities. After 6 months of training at the Solar Mama program, they're sent back to their villages with 50 household solar kits and the expertise to install and maintain them.
The community is used to seeing women nursing kids, cleaning, cooking, not going on the roof, put a panel, and then the whole house is electrified. So for us, actually, it's not only empowering, but also it's building the sustainable communities.
In addition to providing employment for women in conservative societies where gender roles are often restrictive, the program has also made it easier for children in rural areas to follow their studies after dark. So far in Zanzibar, the Solar Mamas have lit up nearly 2,000 homes.
Well, Senegal is facing a major public finance crisis, and one of the ways that it's looking to boost the country's finances is by bringing in taxes on payments made using a mobile phone. Now, that's the most popular way to make digital transactions, but the prospect of levies on these kind of payments has some of the country's sectors worried.
Mobile money is a cornerstone of economic life in Senegal. Now, a proposed tax of 0.5% to 2% on mobile money transactions has become the talk of Dakar. Though not yet enforced, the measure, part of the government's new economic recovery plan, has sparked strong reactions among the Senegalese.
It's a good thing. It's thanks to these taxes that the government builds roads and hospitals. I trust the authorities in power.
The taxes are excessive. There's no money in Senegal. Asking us to pay between 0.5 and 2% on mobile transactions is difficult.
With more than 15.3 trillion CFA francs moving through the mobile money system every year and over 65,000 transfer points across the country, mobile money is essentially the people's bank here in Senegal. The government claim that this new tax could bring in up to 220 billion CFA francs. But industry insiders say that this could actually reduce how much money ends up in the system. This is the case for Wave, one of Senegal's mobile money leaders. While the fintech company says it's ready to support the government through this difficult economic period, questions remain around the longer-term consequences.
The first consequence for users is a drop in purchasing power that could push people back to using cash. And once people go back to cash, the adoption of digital channels weakens. That would impact all digital sector players, who could see their volume fall. In the benchmarking data we have, we've seen declines of up to 60% in some countries. These are really warning signs for us.
With a 1% stamp duty on purchases in supermarkets since October, the government is also targeting certain cash transactions to help the economic situation in the country.
Well, that is it for Across Africa for now, but thank you very much for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.
No to jest takie porównywalne w sumie do gier komputerowych, no jest zabawa, no bo to jest fajne.
Ona do mnie proszę. Nad głową, żeby tutaj stanęło.
No ewidentnie tutaj na kamerce. No i trochę widać, i tylko trzeba ten.
Gotowiec, jakby można sobie zamówić, natomiast można też go złożyć po części. Zobaczcie, każdy tam.
Fajnie się tak lata, to szybko tak wszystko, no ale jakoś, no na pewno jest to realistyczne, ale jeśli się trzyma tego prawdziwego drona i się tak lata, to jest różnica.
Ponieważ brakuje takich osób, brakuje operatorów wśród młodych osób. Brakuje osób, które mają tą wiedzę, które potrafiłyby bronić naszego kraju. Okej, spróbujmy zrobić taki teraz przelot.
To oczywiście, że to jest duży taki wpływ. Ta wojna i w ogóle, i że te drony są też wykorzystywane i to mocno.